women are all in silk and satin, and so the fellas say. There's just one thing necessary in Manhattan when you got just one day. Gotta pick up a date, maybe 7 or 8 on your way in just one day.
New York, a wonderful town. The Bronx is up and the Battery's down. The people ride in a hole in the ground. New York, it's a wonderful town.
Hello and welcome to the Heroic Review. This is our weekly episode review. This week we're reviewing episode 8 of season 4, Rarity Takes Manhattan. In this week's episode, Rarity Takes Manhattan. Joining me this week on the panel, we have Gumbasa.
Hello, everybody.
PDK.
Anna Hasio.
And Reverb.
Hello there.
I'm your moderator, Deadly Reg. So we start off with our general thoughts on the episode. Gumbasa, if you'd like to start.
Well, after the massive lack of Rarity episodes over season 3, it was just so good to finally see a Rarity episode, and it was even better to know that it is one of the best episodes of season 4 so far.
PDK?
Oh man, yeah, I totally agree. I do love a good Rarity episode. We have been waiting for one for a very long time, and I did love how kind of meta season 4 is getting in little nods here and there. But yeah, this is one of the best episodes this season.
Reverb?
I'm a little biased. I think pretty much all the Rarity episodes are absolutely amazing, and this one's no exception. I mean, especially just the voice acting for Rarity in particular was just so awesome. And I mean, there were a few bits and pieces around the place which sort of got on my nerves a little bit about the episode, except it wasn't a part of the main episode at all. It was just sort of either background things or minor details. But yeah, no, I really liked this episode as well.
Yeah, I was a big fan of this episode. It was a Rarity episode. It felt like the cast actually had something to do, all of them. It was to be friendly and be her friends, but everything was firing on all cylinders. We had some excellent featured characters. Animation was of usual quality. I don't know whether this or Flight to the Finish has been my favourite of the season, but these two are in the top. Alright, general opinions have been had, so let's go to our little free-for-all and we'll dissect this episode a little bit more. So this episode was written by Dave Polsky, who has already had an episode in this season. He wrote Daring Don't.
Really? Was it him? I'll have to take him off my hit list.
Do we think this is made up for Daring Don't, an episode that we universally did not like?
Almost universally, thank you very much.
Almost universally, I apologise, Gumbasa. You are our sole voice of praise for that one. I've always had the opinion with Dave Polsky that Dave Polsky is a good writer, but not necessarily a good MLP writer. And this was an episode where he felt like a good MLP writer. I think this is his best episode, certainly of the last 3 seasons. I need to double check which ones he's written again.
Some of his more well-known episodes at this point are Too Many Pinkie Pies and Keep Calm and Flutter On.
Oh, yes.
And Polsky has always struck me as the writer who knows how to write really good visual comedy, but his main problem comes when he has to introduce stronger emotions into the story, I think.
He's good at snappy dialogue. Some of the dialogue that was written over a barrel and the train scene, that was like a standout for the fandom for the early part.
Some of the actual jokes in Too Many Pinkie Pies, especially with the actual G3 face, I thought were brilliant. I mean, some people absolutely hated them. I really loved Too Many Pinkie Pies, except on a different level to the other episodes, which I suppose is Dave Polsky's thing, isn't it? I mean, like you said, good writer, not necessarily MLP, but yeah, I liked that one.
He also seems to have a thing for taking the name of the show and sort of name-dropping it into some of his jokes. Like, he did that at the end of Keep Calm and Flutter On, and in this one, he did it particularly hilariously during Rarity's breakdown scene.
Yeah, I loved that. I thought that was really good.
Yeah, I've got nothing to add apart from, he's really hit and miss, and sometimes you just kind of despair if you see his name like we did at the beginning, but it turned out good.
No, I think this is pretty much his strongest episode. He never writes bad episodes, he writes bad MLP episodes.
You know, I'm starting to see a bit of a pattern here with certain characters on the show being so very well written, even when they're by writers that are considered relatively polarizing by the fan base. When you have Scootaloo, for example, you have 2 episodes with her that were superbly written, one of them by a brand new writer, And then you have Rarity, who all of her episodes have been completely fantastic, regardless of who the writer is.
To be honest, there's been very little in the way of episodes that actually star Rarity. I mean, we've had 3 in 4 seasons.
Oh, there was a Fluttershy episode written by Dave Polsky. Which one was that again?
That was Keep Calm and Flutter On.
Is that the one with Iron Will?
Discord. It's all with Discord.
Ah, okay. No, that's right. Yep. Sorry.
He did write Discord very well in that episode, too, by the way.
Oh, his pacing is almost always terrible. His pacing was not terrible in this episode. I wouldn't say
it was pretty good.
I think the writer that produces the best paced work on MLP is M.A. Larson, who does fantastic pacing. Dave Polsky's scripts are usually all over the place in terms of when things are introduced, but I think this is his best paced episode he's ever done. Honestly, I think it was very, very good.
Yeah, he managed to do quite a bit with the runtime in this one. And again, I also think that it plays to Rarity's strengths as a character, because she does go through massive mood changes very quickly in some of her episodes. And with her, it's actually very believable.
She just has a flair for the drama, darling.
She has a flair for everything. She's fabulous.
So we think Rarity was treated well as a character this episode?
Very much so, yes. I think that Rarity as a character was very well represented in this episode, and I think it showed off pretty much all facets of her character and her personality, from going from generous to selfish, realizing that she had been selfish and made a huge mistake, and really wanting to make up for that mistake. It actually kind of reminded me a lot of Sisterhood Social, which is one of my personal favorite episodes of the show.
There's a lovely line in fiction, Background Pony, when they're talking about Rarity, and they make the comment that Rarity's the most generous of all ponies, and she needs to be. The general idea is if she's not being generous, she's insufferable. And as a Rarity fan, I think that's a fair assessment of her. Is her generosity is her best quality, because it comes through in lots of aspects of her personality. And when she's not being generous, she has to make herself be generous in a way. It does come naturally to her, but it's something that she's choosing to do. It's not something she just unconsciously does. And that's what makes her so interesting as a character, is if she doesn't think about it, she's awful. But when she does think about it, she's fantastic as a human being, as a horse, as it were. And I think that definitely came across in this episode. Like, even when she was at her worst, she was still definitely Rarity. And when that happened with, say, Rainbow Dash, it doesn't feel like her anymore. Like, Cider loving Rainbow Dash, who would sell out her friends, doesn't feel like Rainbow Dash to me.
Yeah.
No, I agree. There was one instance in this episode where Rarity's, kind of lack of generosity shown through. Spike carried those bags the entire way. Did she ever say thank you to him, or?
She gave him a carrot hot dog, and I think that was about the extent of it.
I thought he went and got that himself.
He possibly got it himself.
No, it was during the song. She bought it for him and gave it to him, and then a bird stole it, and he got his own afterwards.
Oh, I missed that.
Me too.
That is... Yes, she's kind of a bitch. She feels like an actual person in that. Yeah, she should probably have helped him and said thank you a lot. But she does lavish him with praise from time to time. We've seen her do it, and I imagine that she has done it for her being so kind. But she's not making him carry the bag. She's just asking him to.
And Spike being Spike, of course, he has absolutely no problem doing it. I mean, this is the character who voluntarily allowed himself to be turned into a pincushion.
Yeah, he's got thick scales, it's fine. So we had 3 extra characters in this, actually. Okay, we had Prim Hemline, who Megan McCarthy was talking about back in November. We had Suri Polo Mare, and we had Coco Pomel. I am sure Suri Polo Mare and Coco Pomel are some kind of fashion puns. I'm looking at Fee.
Coco Chanel, and what was the other one?
Suri Polo Mare.
Oh, I don't know.
Well, anyway, the voice work on those 3 was really, really good. I really liked them. Would you like to take a guess at who voiced all of those characters?
Did one person voice all of them?
No.
Oh, okay.
I have no idea.
Prim Hemline was Ashley Ball,
No.
and Suri Polo Mare was Tabitha St. Germain.
Well, yeah, I kind of guessed that one.
I did not get that, even though it was her usual Valley Girl voice. And Coco Pamel was Kathy Weslock. So they are clearly employed for their ability to do other characters' voices.
I want to hear him
Definitely.
again now.
Yeah, they've got a amazing cast on this show. Continue to prove they have an amazing cast on this show.
Yeah, not only can they do amazing things with their regular characters, but when they're given one-off characters or a new character to play, they really throw their all into making them sound as unique as possible.
Yeah, the in particular, Suri Polo, I'm going to call her Suri. She had these lovely little vocal tics where she was just like kind of offhandedly saying things like, yeah, sure, yeah. Just little quiet things that she was just kind of saying, which weren't actual lines of dialogue. I thought that was very impressive that they bothered to do that, because a lot of the time you just get a line read, and she was clearly being directed to just flow, and she had a wonderful flow on that voice. For children's television, that was amazing. This is from a man who watches a lot of animation.
She did a very good job in capturing like the queen bee quality of the character, in that when we first see her, she's very chummy and friendly with Rarity, and then immediately after the theft is revealed, she goes to being downright cold-hearted and devious.
Without any change in the voice whatsoever.
Well, and it worked. I mean, I was about to say, when we first met her, yeah, she seemed really overly nice, and I was picking that it was probably going to change just from where the sort of setup was going, but it didn't seem obviously forced or like we were supposed to know that she was pretending all that much. It seemed natural, or like she was acting really well.
It was, I don't know, character building rather than actually trying to necessarily inform us about the character's intentions, just informing us about the character's personality. And that's better. There was no mustache twiddling because she was evil.
Now I'm very curious to hear what her history is with Rarity, because she obviously knows Rarity from before, and Rarity, while it took some prodding to get her to remember, I do think that Rarity did sort of remember her. So I'm wondering what their relationship was like before.
They mentioned it a little bit that she was sewing. You were from Sewing Circle.
Yet once again, this show has managed to give us just enough to get us to write fanfics about it, and that's about it.
Yeah, they know they could get away with it now.
It's the bread and butter.
Oh yeah. What did we think of Rarity's dresses?
Which
one?
Any of them! They were all beautiful!
Okay, the fabric that she initially developed, I thought was really coolly animated, because it had sort of this animated texture to it that made it look like it was some sort of gel substance that was alive.
Yeah, no, I was about to say it had like so much sort of a magical quality that it was kind of alive within the fabric.
Oh my
really
god,
cool.
It's made out of the schmooze.
No, we've already had a schmooze fic. It's all been done.
Yes!
It's from the My Little Pony movie, the original one that had Danny DeVito in it.
I know it from Scribbler's Reading.
Oh yeah, Scribbler did that fic about it. It was a good fic. I'm not talking about Scribbler's fics today. I think that it was amusing when she comes out with the hotel dresses, the hotel chic. Thank you. It was amusing because they were pretty good. I think, given that it was somebody's job to design a bunch of horse costumes, I think they did very well. I always enjoy when they do Rarity's designs.
I mean, they were very, very cleverly designed from an artist's standpoint. I mean, I'm not saying necessarily from Rarity's. I mean, from both, they were really, really cool. They did a really good job.
As ever.
It once again just goes to show Rarity's creativity as an artist, that she was able to make something fully functional and fashionable that impressed hoity-toity photo finish. And who was the other pony in the crowd that they cut to?
Diamond Shores was there, or Sapphire Shores.
Sapphire Shores, thank you, yes. I don't know why I forgot her. She's such a distinctive personality.
Oh, she is.
Something I really loved though with the dresses was, I think it was the first one that came out, or maybe the second or something. One of them had like soap on a rope as a necklace, and I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I'm thinking what the next topic we need to approach is on this episode. So why didn't Twilight teleport them all to the thing?
Or Rainbow Dash fly them. Yeah.
Or yeah,
Or any of the things that could have happened to avoid having to wait in a line for a cab.
Why didn't she go, I am Princess Twilight Sparkle, get out of the way, this is my carriage now. And then when he protests, she just kicks him down. Like, she's a princess, she can do whatever she wants. She's responsible for the Twilight.
That brings up a good point that a lot of people have been making about this season. I don't necessarily agree with it, but it is something that people are starting to bring up, is the fact that Twilight is a princess now, but she hasn't really been flexing her muscles as a princess very much.
Yeah, she was in charge of the entire country for, 4 or 5 hours, but she was in charge of the entire country.
Yeah, but she's not been given anything else to do. She doesn't have a princessly job. She's not in charge of any princessly empire. She's just left around to go run around with her friends. There's really, like people have been saying on the internet, there's really no need for her to be a Princess Alicorn right now.
They really need to be doing more with it, because we had a bit of it in the first episode, and then the rest of it could all be season 3. I mean, that could have been a season 3 episode, apart from trimmings, which we'll get to in a second.
you know what would have made me really happy, although we wouldn't have enough time to do it, is if she couldn't go to Manhattan because she had to be taken away on a princess thingy. She was upset about it. She missed it. It becomes another theme in the episode.
It feels like all of that kind of thing got dealt with in Princess Twilight Sparkle.
They did too much. It's like, we're going to sort out everything here, then you never have to worry about it again. But we want to worry about it.
I'm certainly not going to complain about that, because it doesn't bother me that much. I'm just glad to see more Twilight myself.
A little head nod to it now and then would be good. I don't necessarily need them to complicate the scripts, but a little head nod to the fact that she's a magical Alicorn princess, elevated for her mastery of friendship, would be helpful now and then.
Maybe if someone on the street while they were there was like, oh my god, it's the princess.
Yeah, anything that, I mean, the things they've been nodding to and we've kind of mentioned in each review along the way of every episode, you'd think a little line here or there would just kind of reinforce it and keep it in people's minds.
Well, if they're going to do that, then they'd have to pretty much start acknowledging the fact that these 6 ponies have saved Equestria over and over again. They're the embodiments of the elements of harmony, and yet nobody ever really seems to recognize them.
Yeah, that's true.
Yep.
I would like a scene where they were under in, and Prim Hemline had said, "We start at 2 o'clock, you're disqualified." And Princess Twilight Sparkle, "Bitch, do you know who I am?" Just kicks her down. "Do you know who I am?" It's just, I'm Twilight Sparkle! I saved Equestria! Oh, command Discord. Do you want to be starting with me? She's like, "No, Twilight, no." "You start at what time?" "Well, start whenever." "You start at 2:10. Have a good show, Rarity."
And then a fanfic was written.
And that's how Equestria was made. But seriously, everyone's like, "Oh no, how are we going to conform to all these timelines?" I think, you saved the world as we know it. I reckon people could give you 10 minutes to go to the bathroom or whatever.
But I think that the point of that was to demonstrate that Rarity's generosity was coming back to her in a good way.
Yeah.
That was a pretty big part of the beginning of the episode, was the fact that she was being so generous to the taxi driver, which, by the way, I didn't know that Rarity could do alchemy.
Apparently, Equivalent Exchange came in here.
Yeah, and she also was constantly tipping the bellhop, which he definitely appreciated. And it all came back to help her when she needed to get there really, really fast.
I am very pleased that the Rarity helps a bunch of people and they help her out was pretty much done by the halfway point. Like, everyone she helped in that opening song, their help had played out by the middle of the episode, before the real problem hit.
Well, again, that was sort of an important part, because it was to contrast what happens when she's generous to Suri, letting her take a sample of her new fabric.
It also comes back to, as a payoff in the end, when the assistant comes back and says, "I thought you were an amazingly kind pony. I wanted to come and help you," sort of thing. I mean, that was a generous payoff again, sort of at the end.
So please, take this rainbow thread that we're going to tease at the end of the episode.
Yes.
Again.
The tease, by the way, Megan McCarthy has said on her Twitter, "I wonder if we'll see from this thread again." So clearly all of this, there was that flash of the rainbow when she saw the rope, and we had the little rainbow twinge at the end of the episode. So as we said last time, they really need to start paying off some of these things that they're setting up at the ends of the episodes.
But maybe, as has been discussed already and is being discussed right now on the internet, we've been interpreting these things as just yet other plot lines that need to be kind of all harangued together by the end of the season. Maybe we have been interpreting them wrong, and maybe the keys aren't literal keys, and all these little items are stacking up on the real keys.
They were literal keyholes, though.
So we look back at generosity. The major moral of this story seems to be continue being generous even if people are horrible jerks.
That was pretty much spelled out in the diary entry, I think.
Yeah.
That Rarity was a bit more eloquent in stating it, but...
Yeah.
I'm very impressed, because generally I feel like if this was a regular children's show, and I'm being very dismissive of children's television, if this was a regular children's show from when I was younger, the lesson would be you should be generous to everybody. Whereas this took it one step further, and it's people will take advantage of you, and you shouldn't let that destroy your faith in other people. I think that is the kind of lesson that children should be learning, because they will get taken advantage of because they're kids. And the idea that you shouldn't let the fact that people are going to be awful to you stop you being kind is a really important lesson for people.
Yeah.
Yeah, you won't see this on Thomas the Tank Engine, now will you?
Maybe if there's a crossover fic. I think it's this is the kind of stuff I come to this show for. It's introspective. It's an analysis, a look at what these characters do. And the fact is, there's a real sense that these elements that they have in the show, kindness, laughter, all those things, they're essential to, functioning society. They're essentially to functioning social interaction. And the gist of it is that any one of these things can be used against you, because essentially you are making yourself weaker to make someone else strong. That's the whole point of all of these elements, is you're opening yourself up to harm in order to enrich someone else. And the fact that the show is acknowledging that can be a negative thing, that can hurt you, is very bold, because it's telling kids people are going to take advantage of you if you are nice. And that is something that I find isn't particularly addressed in these kinds of morals, even in more teen stuff. As it gets older, they don't tend to look at the fact that the more open you are, the easier it is to take advantage of you. And to acknowledge that, and to say that it's simply an inevitability that you have to move past, and to learn which people are the ones that are most deserving of your kindness, that requires active thought on the part of the person that you're teaching this lesson to. And that's a hard thing to be allowed to say, because it's assuming your audience has a measure of intelligence.
I agree. And I mean, just like what you said before, I mean, this is what I love about the show as well. I mean, the last few episodes with Batson, just sort of the really crazy out there comicness of, well, I mean, the cartoon, it is a cartoon, and it feels weird to get angry at it for doing that, except I love it when it does this and goes really in depth with character and problems and those real world sort of things in this fantasy universe. I mean, that's what I love about this show. I'm so glad to see that season 4 hasn't completely lost that apart from 1 or 2 episodes. I'm hoping to see a bit more of that as more episodes come through.
I almost feel there's my other favourite episode for this season, which is Flight to the Finish. There was a similar overlap in this, which is there will always be situations that you cannot overcome, and all you can do is learn to work around them. And that is an excellent lesson to teach anybody, and the fact they are teaching this to 6-year-old girls is impressive. That is a really strong lesson to be teaching children, that you are going to encounter situations you can't fix, that you just have to learn to cope with, and that you can be better for having coped with them. And I think that's really positive image.
It's also a pretty good lesson to teach to 20 to 30-year-old men and women who happen to be watching your show as well.
Here.
Sort of going off of that link between Flight to the Finish and Rarity Takes Manhattan, one thing that's kind of bothering me is the fact that the villains of the episode, or the antagonists, are getting away without really getting very much of a comeuppance. Like in this episode, nothing bad really happens to Siri for what she tried to do to Rarity, other than her assistant, who I'm assuming she had do most of the work quitting on her. And Flight to the Finish, you had Silver Spoon and Diamond Tiara just walking off after losing the competition to the Cutie Mark Crusaders, which I don't usually advocate corporal punishment against children, but would somebody just beat their asses already?
I know what you mean. And while I really agree that it would be so good to see these ponies get what they deserve, something I actually kind of like, as well as the whole message, is that it's also kind of realistic that a lot of the time they actually tend to get away with it a lot.
Yeah, I was just going to agree. You've got to, like Deadly Red just said, you've got to keep it somewhat realistic and teach kids a better lesson than just everything works out all right, just believe in yourself and all that kind of claptrap we get from all the other cartoons.
I suppose so, but when you see other antagonists in the show sort of fall by the wayside or get punished or get their comeuppance, like Flim and Flam back in the Super Speedy Cider Squeezy 6000, they were pretty much run out of town after they made bad cider.
But I would argue there's power level differences here, where you expect people like Discord and all the other King Somers, etc., to get their comeuppance because they're a real threat. Street level villains, I'm using comic book terms here. Yeah, Flim and Flam got run out of town, but they can just set up in another town. There's nothing to say they won't be doing this again. And these guys are going to come back as sort of annoyances, but they're no real threat. They're just, they impact people's lives, but you've got to be able to move on past, villains, quote unquote, like that.
Another thing I thought is the difference between Flim and Flam and, say, Diamond Tiara and Siri, is the difference between those two groups and Flim and Flam is these ones did it in secret. Flim and Flam were really open and sort of, open big contest, we challenge you, and sort of in the public eye of all of Ponyville. So, I mean, something sort of had to happen there at the end of it.
Cider, 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 cider.
They did get a catchy song about them. I would say the difference between the two classes, well, there are two clear classes of antagonists written here, and the difference is a difference that occurs in a lot of fiction. Flim and Flam and others are material threats to the group and to the society around them. Flim and Flam want to drive the apples out of the cider business and encourage Rainbow Dash's alcoholism. So they are a real material present threat that will actually harm the livelihoods of the people around them. When you look at Diamond Tiara and Siri Polo Mare, they aren't material threats. They aren't a problem. The fact that Diamond Tiara came in and essentially spouted ableist crap at Scootaloo isn't a problem. The problem is whether or not you allow it to hurt you, and it's really emphasizing the sticks and stones malarkey, that words can be really painful. They can actually be a threat. The fact that you say they get away with it, what they don't get is punished. They don't get away with it. They don't get what they were after. Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon are after the right to do the Olympics opening ceremony, and Siri Polo Mare is after the winner's prize, and neither of them get those things. The fact they go unpunished for their attempts to do these things is irrelevant. They don't win. And the fact that they go unpunished is simply a fact that their punishment is that they lose.
Fine, I'll accept that with Siri, but not with Diamond Tiara.
Diamond Tiara had to stand in a stupid dress and watch Scootaloo be presented with a flag. Hey, remember when she got kicked in the mud?
She didn't even get kicked, she just threw herself into the mud.
Yeah, that's the thing I'll say, that if you contrast the end of Flight to the Finish to the end of One Bad Apple, the ending where Babseed turns around and basically says, I'm going to tell your mothers on you, and they jump back in the pig mud, that feels weird and forced to me. That's one of the reasons why I don't I like Babs as a character, but I don't like that episode. And in contrast, the fact at the end of Flight to the Finish, they're just standing there seething, and in the right kind of show, they'd be shaking their fists in anger. I prefer the fact that they aren't directly punished. Their punishment is they get to see their schemes fail. That's punishment enough for these characters, because we are shown time and again that these characters are driven by ego, and the defeat of their goals is a wound to their ego. They've been hurt in the worst possible way. They don't need to get shoved in the pig mud by an angry Manhattan horse.
They just failed.
They just failed.
One of the bits where Applejack says something brutally honest, and it sounds like it should have been coming from Rainbow Dash instead.
Yeah, I like that.
Rainbow even calls her out on it, too.
Yeah.
There was a lot of... I wouldn't actually... No, I'll go back. There was some meta-commentary in the script. This is typical of Polsky. He's that kind of guy, with Rainbow saying, "Who would start singing a song in the middle of the street?" And I was like, I rolled my eyes, but if I was 6, I'd love that joke. There was Friendship is Magic, as we said, with the title drop. He loves this stuff. There was plenty of it. The only thing that felt weird was when Rainbow Dash said "aight," which was really weird.
Yeah. Oh, just that sat so wrong with me, because I don't know how do Americans say that a lot, because to me that's very...
The only time I have ever really heard that used has been in really bad rap songs.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm getting a picture of a South London rap video, and I just don't know where he picked that up or why he felt the need to put that in. Just, I don't see the target audience going, "Oh, hilarious pop culture reference that we get because we're small children." No, they don't listen to that kind of stuff, so I don't know.
I think that when we look back on this episode, we will look back on Rainbow Dash saying "aight" in the same way that we look back on cartoon characters saying things are radical or bodacious.
Yeah, see, that's what it said to me. Right in my brain, right in my 80s brain, it was like, oh no, cowabunga dudes, what?
Oh, totally. Word up.
Oh, man.
It's like that, oh man, it's like that forced sassiness you got with slightly cheap and nasty 80s characters.
Oh, that is something that we didn't talk about yet, by the way, was the song.
Oh yes, what did we think of the song?
At first, it took a second to grow on me because lyrically, it's actually a very complicated song compared to some of the
Pinkie
other
Pie
songs in the show. I really like the beat,
at the start.
I'm sick
but
of
it's
Pinkie
not the
Pie.
kind of song that you can
Yeah, I'm
just
bored of talking
pick
about
up
how Pinkie
right
Pie's out of
away
character. I think we've
and
covered it in
start
so
singing
many
again.
of these
It's
that
one
we
that
just have
would
to
require
wait
you to
until they
actually
do a
listen
Pinkie
to
Pie
it a
episode
few
so we can go,
times
oh my god, they got it
to
right,
really
they
get to
got
know
it
the
wrong.
lyrics. It's not like the Smile song or the Pony Every Pony Should Know, for example, and definitely not Hearts as Strong
Rumor
as
is-
Horses,
I hope
which
it's not
is a
written
great
by anyone
song,
like Dave
but
Polsky.
lyrically
Rumor is
there's not a
good.
lot
I
going
can
on
actually
there.
tell you.
The verses are amazing, though.
No, yeah, I would say that I'm not ever really that much of a fan of the songs, and I don't ever really kind of rate them, so I'm not the best to comment on it, but I would say I've already forgotten the song. I couldn't give you a line of the song already, so it was nice, but it's not memorable in the slightest.
It bounced right off me. I didn't even know that the song had the word generosity in it until I double checked. So I don't know what it is, but the song just did not get me.
I remember Generosity and Rarity and Manhattan, and yeah, I got nothing beyond that.
Terrible.
I didn't think it was too bad. It was very in the middle. I mean, there's been some bad songs. It was definitely better than everything in Equestria Girls.
Yeah.
And a few other songs, but
Well, like I said, I enjoyed the song. I do think that it is one of the more forgettable ones, but it kind of occupies that weird space where it's not a song that's really meant to further the plot, but it's also not just a song for a song's sake either.
It had a middle ground. It seemed to be doing something in the flow of the episode. The episode didn't grind to a halt like Hearts as Strong as Horses did. Nothing happened in that bit apart from a
they
montage.
trained.
They did a training montage. When you compare it to Art of the Dress, which is the best song ever written for animation, if you look at that in the context of the episode, that is the gold standard to which all songs in this show should aspire. And this did not go anywhere near that. And that's a shame because Rarity songs are generally fantastic.
Well, do we want to say that it sort of existed for the minor reprisal that we got later on in the
it was pretty
episode?
much there for the reprisal later on. The reprisal later on was pretty good. It was short. We got to see more Wet Mane Rarity, which is always a fan favourite.
It reminded me a bit of the Magical Mystery Cure when Twilight was really sad she couldn't turn her friends back. I suppose just because
Sad song,
they're the only two
rating,
sad
Wet
songs.
Mane. Yeah.
Pretty much.
Okay, I think that's the end of our discussion there. You've been listening to The Heroic Review, reviewing Rarity Takes Manhattan. My contributors today were Gumbasa,
Sayonara, everybody.
PDK,
Annyeong.
Reverb.
See you later, everyone.
I was Deadly Reg, your moderator, and thank you for listening.
What can happen to you in one day? What do you think you're gonna do? New York, a wonderful town. The Bronx is up and the Battery's down. The people ride in a hole in the ground.